Welcome forward with Jesus' Course in Miracles. This is Chapter 4, The Root of All Evil, page 30. The kingdom of heaven is the right of the soul, whose beauty and dignity are far beyond doubt, beyond perception, and stand forever as the mark of the love of God for His creations, who are wholly worthy of Him, and only of Him. Nothing else is sufficiently worthy to be a gift for a creation of God Himself. I will substitute for your ego if you wish, but never for your soul. A father can safely leave a child with an elder brother who has shown himself responsible, but this involves no confusion about the child's origin. The brother can protect the child's body and his ego, which are very closely related, but he does not confuse himself with the father because he does this, although the child may. I can be entrusted with your body and your ego simply because this enables you not to be concerned with them and lets me teach you their unimportance. I could not understand their importance to you if I had not once been tempted to believe in them myself. Let us undertake to learn this lesson together so we can be free of them together. I need devoted teachers who share my aim of healing the mind. The soul is far beyond the need of your protection or mine, and remember this. In this world you need not have tribulations because I have overcome the world. That is why you should be of good cheer. The ego and false autonomy. You have asked lately how the mind could ever have made the ego. This is a perfectly reasonable question. In fact, the best question you could ask. There is, however, no point in giving an historical answer because the past does not matter in human terms, and history would not make it exist if the same errors were not being repeated in the present. Abstract thought applies to knowledge because knowledge is completely impersonal, and examples are irrelevant to its understanding. Perception, however, is always specific and therefore quite concrete. Each man makes one ego for himself, although it is subject to emotion or enormous variations because of its instability, and one for everyone he perceives it, which is equally variable. Their interaction is a process in which literally alters both, because they were not made by or with the unalterable. Let me read that again. Their interaction is a process which literally alters both, because they were not made either by or with the unalterable. It is particularly important to realize that this alteration can and does occur as readily when the interaction takes place in the mind as when it involves physical presence. Thinking about another ego is effective in changing relative perception, as is physical interaction. There could be no better example of the fact that the ego is an idea, though not a reality-based thought. Your own present state is a good example of how the mind made the ego. You do have knowledge at times, but when you throw it away, it is as if you never had it. This willingness is so apparent that one need only perceive it to see that it does happen. If it can occur that way in the present, why is it surprising that it occurred that way in the past? Psychology rests in the principle of the continuity of behavior. Surprise is a reasonable response to the unfamiliar, but hardly to something that has occurred with such persistence. I am using your present state of how the mind can work provided you fully recognize that it need not work that way. Why are you surprised that something happened in the dim past when it is so clearly happening now? You forget the love that animals have for their own offspring and the need they feel to protect them. This is because they regard them as a part of themselves. No one disowns something he regards as a very real part of himself. Man reacts to his ego much as God does to his souls, with love, protection, and great charity. The reaction of man to the self he made is not at all surprising. In fact, it duplicates, in many ways, how he will one day react to his real creations, which are as timeless as he is. The question is not how man responds to his ego, but what he believes he is. Belief is an ego function, and as long as your origin is open to belief at all, you are regarding it from an ego viewpoint. When teaching is no longer necessary, you will merely know God. Belief that there is another way is the loftiest idea of which ego thinking is capable of. This is because it contains a hint of recognition that the ego is not the self. Undermining the ego's thought system must be perceived as painful, even though this is anything but true. Babies scream in rage if you take away a knife or scissors, even though they may well harm themselves if you do not. The speed up has placed you in the same position. You are not prepared, and in this sense you are babies. You have no sense of real self-preservation and are very likely to decide what you need precisely, what will hurt you the most, whether you know it or not, whether you have willed to cooperate in a concerted and very commendable effort to become both harmless and helpful. Two attributes which must go together. Your attitudes, even towards this, are necessarily conflicted because all attitudes are ego-based. This will not last. Be patient a while and remember that the outcome is as certain as God. Only those who have a real and lasting sense of abundance can be truly charitable. This is quite obvious when you consider the concepts involved. To the ego, to give anything implies that you will do without it. When you associate giving with sacrifice, then you give only because you believe that you are somehow getting something better, so that you can do without the thing you give. Giving to get is an inescapable law of the ego. And I'm going to stop there. That's the end of page 30.